Hello, everybody, and welcome to Reap the Spoils. Ooh, I'm Mark Sullivan.
I forgot this happens every Halloween. I'm Delaila Lugo.
I'm Jason Kwasnicki. I'm embarrassed.
And
Sorry.
tonight-
This happened last year.
And
I,
tonight, yeah. All right, I'll stop. And, and tonight, we're gonna be talking about Delilah. What game are we playing?
Alien Isolation.
Yeah. So, Reap the Spoils is a monthly spoiler cast where we play a game and then we talk about the game. We spoil everything about it. From the story to just talking about the mechanics, diving deep into a game, talking about pretty much everything that we can fathom being worth talking about. So, if you have not
Everything.
played the game,
every crevice.
every nook, every cranny, every Sevastopol terminal, every vent. Anyway, if you haven't played the game in this case is Alien Isolation, go play it. We don't want to be the ones that ruin it for you, ruin your first experience with it. Like, please go play the game. And that being said, also for this game, go watch the original.
Yeah, watch the movie first.
Go watch the 1979 brilliant masterpiece of a film, Alien, directed by Ridley Scott.
Ridley Scott.
Please go watch that and then play the game, or play the game and then watch it. Really, you should watch the movie and then play the game, but like it doesn't really matter.
Yeah.
Especially if you're already familiar with the franchise. But anyway, okay. Now that that's all out of the way, are you guys ready for a history lesson?
Yes.
Go for it.
All right. So, this is a history lesson of Alien Isolation specifically. I'm not going to go into the history of the movie. Like I said, we're primarily going into the game. It just helps to have context from the movie. So, Alien Isolation, a Sega-owned studio called Creative Assembly, was approached in 2010. Sega, I believe I read that Sega had acquired the rights for the Alien franchise to make video games for the Alien franchise in 2006. Is either 2006 or 2008. And Creative Assembly was approached about making an Alien game. And Creative Assembly, this is a really weird game for them because they're well known for making the Total War
strategy.
games.
Yeah, the strategy games.
Lots of real-time strategy games. Like the isometric viewpoints, the Total War franchise is their bread and butter, and I think they're responsible for another popular RTS franchise, if I recall. But Total War is like their big thing. So yeah, they were approached about making an Alien game, and the creative lead, the director of the game, Alistair Hope, and I believe one or two other like high up members of that studio, big Alien fans, especially of the first movie. So they had pitched, instead of a game, Aliens would be the more obvious choice, make an action game focused on shooting a lot of aliens and stuff. No,
Which they had already tried, I believe, at this point in time.
It was in development at the time when they had this pitch.
It hadn't come out? Colonial Marines
wasn't until 2012.
Oh, okay.
So the game hadn't come out yet, but that's a whole nother story for maybe another time.
No, I don't want to get anywhere near that film.
Well, let us know if you want us to cover Aliens, Colonial Marines, or just please never ask us to do that. But yeah, Creative Assembly, instead of the more obvious choice, they had a pitch for a game where instead of engaging, it's more akin to the original Alien, where you avoid the alien. And when they pitched this idea, they had Sega and 20th Century Fox totally behind them on it. Like, backed them up, approved it, greenlit it. They had the go-ahead. So they started developing the game in 2010. I found this interesting. A lot of the information I found came from this article from Kotaku UK. I think it's published now since Kotaku UK shut down. It's now published on Kotaku Australia. A making of Alien Isolation article. Really, really, really interesting stuff. Um, they legitimately had Alien playing on loop on like monitors and TVs and screens all throughout the studio 24/7 for
Wow,
the entirety of development. They just
that's dope.
Yeah, like they just constantly had the movie playing. And even when they were home, like some of the developers said like, yeah, I'd go home and I'd watch it a couple times.
Wow.
Like they really wanted, in my opinion, it was much successful. They really wanted to
Hmm.
capture the feeling of that original movie, from the aesthetics, the feel of it, the retro futuristic aesthetic. They really wanted to nail that as best they could. So
And
they
they
just,
did.
they had the movie playing just like all the time. I also read an anecdote. They used it's kind of hard to describe. They used like real world exercises. They essentially said like, what if an alien was let loose like in this office? What would we do to stop it? Because they're taking this approach of you're not a commando, you don't have weapons that are effective against it. So what would you do to avoid it? And that's how they kind of developed some of the gameplay mechanics to determine how they would avoid it, what they would use, like throwing things and other distractions and whatnot, things that they could find to stop that attack. And I was also interested to read that the acid blood was originally a mechanic. The alien, when
Oh,
it is wounded, its blood is acidic, highly acidic. There's the scene in
yeah,
the original movie.
that explains why the face huggers were so easy to kill.
Yeah, right. Yeah, it was originally supposed to be a mechanic in the game, but it was eventually cut because with the blood like melting floors and walls and whatever it comes in contact with, they couldn't find a way to integrate it into gameplay without it becoming a complete disaster. Um, so it was cut from the game. I also found it interesting. The Alien has 70 to 80 different animation sets, and there are a few scripted moments in the game, but they obviously didn't want to rely entirely on that. They developed a lot of really complex AI systems to ensure that it was unpredictable. It didn't always do the same thing in between deaths. So
Hmm.
you would constantly be on your toes trying to figure out how to avoid it, without anything being the same necessarily between two lives, if you will. Um, so yeah, that all being said, the game came out October 7th, 2014. It came out. It was a cross generation title. Came out on PC, but it came out on PS3, PS4, Xbox 360, and Xbox One.
I think
Later
this
making its
was one of
way.
the first next gen games I had this generation.
Yeah,
Huh.
Yeah.
I think I didn't get this one until really late. Unfortunately, one of my I think the one of the first ones that comes to mind for me was Wolfenstein New Order. Um,
Yeah.
Same year too.
This is my first time playing this game, and I'm so mad at myself.
Yeah,
It's so good.
I
It's
I
absolutely
incredible.
I absolutely adored this game the first time I played it, yeah.
yeah I finally got around to it in 2017, and yeah, it's like Nier Automata, which I didn't play until 2019, and that came out in 2017, and I was kicking myself for not playing it when it came out.
See?
This was
I'm
another
always I'm always ahead of the curve telling you guys.
this was another example of, damn, I really should have played this sooner.
Yeah. Well, what you mentioned in the history that there's 70 to 80 different animations, it shows like every death was a surprise. Like
Yeah.
sometimes it would catch me from behind. Sometimes if I won an event, it would pull me out of it. Like, and that's what made the game so scary. And we'll get into it with the combat section. But there was no point at this game where I was tired of the alien killing me because of the
Or
different
or
animations.
watching it kill other people
Yeah.
if you went that route.
Yeah. The only thing that bothered me about the alien AI is that it always knew where I was, no matter what. It always prowled everywhere I was, and it pissed me
Well,
off.
maybe you're
Yeah.
just a noob. You never know.
That might very well be the case.
Well, let's go ahead and jump into the first thing we always like to talk about, which I think is the thing that probably draws most people to listen to an episode of Reap the Spoils. Let's talk about the story.
Yeah.
Especially this story. Again, like go watch Alien if you haven't, or watch it again if you haven't watched it in a while. But because this is very tied to that story. Yeah, let's jump into it. So, do we just want to talk about the ending? Do we want to set it up a little bit?
So I have to say, I mean, in terms of the actual lore, I don't want to say lore, the timeline of the series, because this is supposed to take place between Alien and
Yeah,
Aliens.
15
Um,
years after Alien.
yes. Um, eh, if you don't know, very, very, very light spoilers for Aliens in the very beginning. She's found, and it turns out she's been floating in space for like a fucking hundred. I don't remember exactly how long it
I
is.
think it's somewhere around 70 to 80 years.
Yeah, something like that. Basically, and her daughter Amanda has died in that time. So when you start this
I think
game,
she was actually like she was still alive,
sh
but I think she was just elderly.
was she still alive? I thought she had
I
died.
think she was still alive. I could be wrong.
There were like, and this is a whole rabbit hole, and Alien, honestly, as a franchise, is a rabbit hole that you can go down very, very far. So there was like a mobile game after Alien Isolation, and then a comic book, and she eventually died at age 65.
Yeah,
So
here's the thing. Here's the thing, though, is
Real
that
quick, Aliens is 57 years after Alien. Just to throw that out there.
really, I thought it was
Yeah.
much longer
I
than
thought it
that.
was longer too, but yeah, 57.
Well, either way, it still kind of breaks the movie timeline a bit because, and again, you can kind of excuse this by using the company knew the entire time and they were just trying to hide it. But like, if Amanda goes through all these events, it kind of breaks things a bit because then she would have the knowledge of everything that really happened and how would that knowledge be contained? And do you understand what I'm saying? So in a way, and at the same time, you know that Amanda is going to make it through these events, so it's almost like reading a book from a first person perspective where generally you know the protagonist is
Well,
going to live.
it's weird because like we don't really know. I guess we'll talk about it right now. Like the end of the game is a
Well,
man.
that's what I wanted to get to is
Yeah.
because it could have opened a really cool, not alternate timeline, but like a really cool offshoot where what Ripley is told at the beginning of Aliens may not have been the actual truth.
hmm.
The company may have been hiding what really happened to her daughter.
See, me going into this game after rewatching the Alien movies, I assumed Amanda was gonna die because there's really no mention of her in the Alien series. So, and I know that
Did you
Ripley,
watch the special?
Ellen,
Did you watch the director's cut or the original?
the original.
Okay, so yeah, in the
But
director's cut,
even so, in the director's cut, there's a very brief mention of her with a
yes,
photograph,
yes.
and that's it. We don't really know much about the character at
Yeah,
all.
yeah. Yeah, no, no,
Which
I
is
totally agree, but
to their credit, like this is why it was such a perfect it's such a perfect plot for them to handle because so little is known about Amanda Ripley. So it made it pretty easy for them to create a story around her.
yeah.
Yeah. So I'm like playing this game, and her goal is to figure out what happened to her mother, Ellen Ripley. And at the whole time I'm playing, I know what happened to her. So at the whole time I'm just like, well, what's going to happen to Amanda? And then when she opened her eyes at the end of the game, and there was like a rescue ship shining on her helmet, I
Yeah.
was just like, what happens now? Like, where did they go anywhere with this? And that's when I found out there was like a mobile game and a comic book to
See,
proceed, but it didn't seem
I
as substantial.
I didn't even know that.
I don't
I've
know.
been I've been waiting for a sequel for 6 years.
So
Like,
I don't know that Alien Blackout is canon, or like I don't know how that game is treated. If it's treated as a canon sequel to
It's not.
Isolation, or okay.
It's
Okay.
just the only story of Amanda Ripley that we have at this
Yeah,
point. So they
yeah.
could create an Alien Isolation 2 or whatever
yeah.
that creates
And
a canon version.
given, I mean, most Alien fans will probably tell you There's Alien, Aliens, everything after, you know, Joss Whedon with yeah, it was Joss Whedon who did the third one, I believe, or the
No,
fourth
the
one,
the
or the
third the
fourth one.
Alien 3 was David Fincher.
And then after that it was
And
Joss Whedon, right? Joss Whedon
really
did one of them.
this I think that was Resurrection, yeah. And if you read
Yeah.
the story behind Alien 3, like David Fincher, it's really
Basically
interesting because he didn't really have he didn't really have much creative control over that movie.
basically they
Mm.
fucked Ellen Ripley from Aliens onward. Aliens is where Ellen Ripley's story for all intents and purposes ends. So it would have been cool, Delilah, you're right. It would have been cool to set up a whole new path for this new legitimate character in this universe that could actually be good.
But anyway, yeah, we it's the ending of the game is really it's really ambiguous, and I don't know, again, like I'm even trying right now to see if Alien Blackout is considered canon, but like I can't imagine that
Well,
game is.
Alien Isolation isn't considered canon to the movies, but what is
It's
canon to Alien Isolation is unclear.
so it's weird because Isolation is and isn't.
The Alien extended universe. Like this is
It is and isn't like
okay.
I've read
Let's
before
let's
that they
let's end
left
this.
it.
Let's end this here because we could jump down a rabbit hole.
Well,
So
no,
That's what I
th-
mean.
This is
Yeah,
actually
this-
something this is actually something I really wanted to talk about. Like, it is like they wanted to make a game that fits within what's already been established, which they did. I think they did, and they did a fantastic job.
because now we also have prequels in the form of fucking
Prometheus,
Prometheus, and then the
Alien Covenant,
yeah, Alien Covenant and all that.
Yeah,
and then
but-
there's theories about those sequels too. It's a
And,
rabbit
like,
hole.
Jesus is an alien and all
Yeah.
that.
Well, Jesus is the human that the
yeah.
engineers took on
the-
to convince the
the,
humans not to be barbaric or
Yeah,
whatever.
the guy in the derelict spacecraft, yeah, was coming to kill humanity and all that.
yeah. Okay, we're getting we're getting way off
So,
track
so
here.
the game ends
game.
with Amanda Ripley floating through space. Sevastopol, the giant space port / mining colony, they destroyed it, and she makes it on to the Anisadora. Wait,
The Torrens, the
Yeah.
not
Torrens.
Anisadora, the
Torrens.
Torrens. Yeah, she makes it back onto the Torrens that she came on, but there's an alien inside. She blows both herself and the alien outside the airlock, and she's floating in space, and a light shines on her. Hit credits. There's no after credits scene, so don't bother waiting like I did.
Well, at least you waited, because you usually don't. You waited on a game that didn't have one.
I just like the music. I was listening to it while I was doing other stuff.
Yeah, fair enough. Go ahead, Delilah.
I would love to see like a proper sequel to it because I did like this story
Yeah.
a lot. However, I feel like they fear doing that because of the way it might inaccurately bleed into the Alien universe,
Well,
which at this point, who cares? Because
Yes, exactly.
there's so
I-
many other
it's-
iterations out there
It's
that
like it's like Star Wars. I would love to have them just make shit in between the original trilogy and the sequel trilogy, because I don't care about the sequel trilogy. Just do, like shit like The Mandalorian, which I don't love, but like it beats what we were getting. So
Well-
I'm kind of like with you on that.
I guess what I want to ask: do you guys consider, or do you guys think this game should be considered canon or not?
Yeah,
Okay.
I think so.
Okay.
because you, like I said in the beginning, you can always just say the company they weren't lying to Ellen Ripley. They just weren't telling her the entire truth. And we know that the company knew about the alien before they went back to LV-426 in the sequel.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. And like it's entirely possible that like we could look at it two ways. At way one, like that searchlight was just, I don't know, a comet flashing by. I'm trying to think of an excuse for that light. She floats away in space and forever and dies in space. And then that's the story of Amanda Ripley. Or there is some ambiguity that could lead to a sequel that could further explain her fate. I wouldn't say this renders in any way the beginning of Aliens, the director's cut with the bit about Amanda. I wouldn't say it renders it retconned in any kind of way. Yeah, like you
Could have
said,
been a fake picture.
right? It could have been a fake picture. It could have been another just a lie from the company, or not the whole truth from the company. I'm not getting hung up on that, especially because we know how shady and shitty Weyland-Yutani can be. We've seen that in countless films.
Oh yeah.
Which I guess let's double back a little bit on the story and talk about Weyland-Yutani's involvement with this game. So the game opened, and let's actually talk about the opening of the game real quick. Hearing that slowed down version of Ellen Ripley's final message, her final log at the end of Alien. With the opening credits, I think that was a really chilling. It's like at the end of the movie, it was a really hopeful message,
right?
Even played with a hopeful track from the score, which happens right before we see her drift off to sleep and the credits start rolling. And in this, it's like much more foreboding. It's a foreboding, chilling way to begin the game. Is hearing that message while the opening credits occur and we get the title card. I just really like that dichotomy, and I wanted to talk about it.
Yeah, they use slight not remixes, rearrangements of the original score to great effect.
Yeah,
not just in the point you're talking about, but throughout the game. I loved that because if you can, I don't know, not picture, but if you can think up in your mind what I'm talking about, the back and forth between, you have those, like you said, those hopeful woodwinds, and then it goes to a foreboding brass movement, and slowly they kind of combine.
Yeah,
it's kind of that iconic sound of the series. That arrangement, and I love their use of that.
Agreed. But yeah, into the big picture, Samuels approaches Amanda, saying that this scavenger ship, the Anisadora, found the black box for the Nostromo, and they're going to retrieve it, and she's coming with them. And they go into Sevastopol and find out that something was on there, killing everyone. Turns out it's one of the aliens. How the hell did that get there? Well, we find out that when they found the black box, they went to LV-426, and we get that really cool sequence playing from the eyes of Marlowe, one of the Anisadora's crew.
Right.
What did you guys think of that sequence?
It
was a little long in the tooth, but it was effective when it needed to be.
Okay.
Yeah, no, I feel like everything you just described we saw in the first movie, and it made me feel nostalgic, even though I just rewatched it, but I did see that movie a long time ago. And so, like, just seeing how much the Torrens look like the Nostromo, and then when we went back to the derelict, all of that stuff just made me feel good, because it was just like the first movie. And I love just how well they captured that.
Yeah,
it was more like nostalgia than anything.
Like seeing the derelict ship in the distance while you're walking there.
Right.
Yeah.
Like that shot is just it does fill you
it
with
has
memories.
Its strengths, but it also has weaknesses. And we'll talk about it, I guess, as we go along, because
let's talk about it now. Like,
one of the weaknesses, I think, with this plot and this game, and we'll get to characters later, but this game has a absolutely fantastic. You can tell they poured their heart and soul into the setting, and recreating the atmosphere, the feel.
I should hope after watching the movie that many times every day,
you feel like you are playing in that world.
Yeah,
and that's one of the things, along with just the gameplay mechanics, that I love the most about this game. The plot itself, it's well executed mechanically. And it does a good job of ratcheting up and releasing tension. The problem is that while it isn't, and like I just said, the nostalgia, it has its strengths in that you feel like you're playing the movie, but it has its weaknesses in that you feel like you're playing the movie. So you know, like, where
what's going to happen,
and you know what the next sequence is
Yeah, like the minute that you see the Apollo human consultation room, you're like, I know what this message is gonna
Yes.
be.
Yeah.
It's betrayed you.
That is, and yeah, I guess that is something I did want to bring up. Like, does this game's plot, does it tread too much familiar ground? Like, is it too similar to the original Alien? Because like you're absolutely right. We went through the sequence on LV-426, and everything starts going haywire. And when you confront the AI in charge of the station, yeah, its main goal is to make
Secure the
sure,
specimen.
yeah, and that's actually part of the plot that was actually kind of a reveal, was that Siegson, the original owner of Sevastopol, throughout the whole first half of the game, as you're piecing together the past of the station, you find out that it was looking for a buyer.
Yeah,
Yeah.
And about halfway through the game, the
there's
big
some
reveal
broke-ass
is
motherfuckers.
yeah, and halfway through the game, you find out that they had a buyer, and that buyer was Weyland-Yutani, and
Mhm.
they bought the station 2 days, I think 2 days after the Torrens crew set out to retrieve the Nostromo black box, because they knew that the Anisadora crew had visited LV-426 and brought with them an infected person.
Yes.
So they knew, okay, this is our chance to get the specimen again. Since the Nostromo plan failed, we can get this now. So
Yeah.
that was a big reveal that I can't remember what my reaction was the first time I played the game. I feel like I was surprised by that. I feel like that was. I mean, I was and I wasn't. Of
You're not
course,
surprised that Whale and
Yeah.
Nutani would do it, but you're surprised that that's how they tied it into
Yeah.
Siegson and the Sevastopol, which I
Yeah.
thought was good.
Mm-hmm. I think you hit the nail on the head there. So yeah, the Apollo basically viewed all the humans on the station a threat, and that's what made the androids go haywire and start attacking everyone.
Yeah.
Because they managed to jettison one of the aliens off of Sevastopol.
The original one, yeah.
Yeah, by using Ripley as bait. I guess, yeah. Let's talk a bit about the characters. I
So
guess we can.
so here's I just want to make another point about that.
Uh-huh.
Because of how predictable this plot got, it was so predictable. I knew where they were going to try to pull the rug out from under me. So I knew that what was Waits the I don't even remember which name goes to which one, because we'll get to that in
Waits
character
is the
section.
marshal.
But yeah, the marshal,
Yeah.
Waits. I knew that he was going to betray me, and I knew that the synthetic was going to sacrifice himself for me, because if you watch the movie, the original movie, the synthetic, tries to kill Ash, tries to kill Ripley. But we already had the average Joes, the Siegson synthetics, as an enemy, turning on the people. So I knew that they were going to try to pull the rug out from under you, making you think that Samuels was going to turn on you, but it would actually be one of the human characters.
Mm-hmm.
So like you could call that a mile away, because it had been so rigid to the original story that they got to switch it up somewhere, and that's and even that's not that much of a detour, because that's essentially part, like it's I would call it the C story of Aliens, is that Ellen is distrustful of the synthetic in Aliens the entire time, but at the end of the movie he saves her and she learns to trust him.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, and also in other movies, a lot of the androids are considered good. Like literally, Aliens already had an android that helped her pretty much the whole time, but she didn't trust him because of Ash. And then even the following movies, we saw some good androids, and apparently Ash was like a series of androids that was like defective or something that was more likely to hurt humans. So it didn't surprise me either that Samuels was a homie.
Yeah. Oh, another thing that we didn't bring up, going back to the LV-426 session, I guess we can call it, there was that beacon that was sending out a warning signal, and the Anisadora crew are the ones that shut that beacon off, as far as this story is concerned, which it ties in. It ties in pretty strongly because they got called.
Mm-hmm.
They got called there by the beacon as well. They actually turned it off to make sure no one else got. Obviously,
It was the same one that called the Nostromo there originally in the first movie.
Not that that really matters in the end, because LV-426 still does get discovered in the end, by a terraforming crew, as we know in Aliens, but at least it ties back to Alien in the sense that they also got Drew there and they wound up turning it off. I felt it was worth noting.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
That
actually kind of answers a question, like, if the corporation wanted the alien, why didn't they just follow the same beacon?
Yeah.
In the time between the movies. So
Yeah.
it does kind of actually tie up some lore there.
Yeah. Jumping a little forward, we're not quite done with Marlowe yet, because he gets freed by Taylor, one of the Torrens crew, who is a lawyer. I think that was her.
She's not part of the crew. She's a lawyer for Weyland Yutani.
Well, she's part of the Torrens crew in the sense that she was on the Torrens.
Oh, okay.
In the beginning, yeah.
That's how I'm referring to her, as a crew member. That she's on. Yeah, she came in on the Torrens.
She's going to the Sevastopol with you.
Yeah, she's there. She's there to. You think she's there to represent the company, with obtaining the black box. She's really there as part of their goal to secure the specimen.
Right.
And she winds up trading Marlowe, letting him free and giving him a space on the ship. Marlowe betrays her and tries to blow up, basically do a fusion reactor overload on the Anisadora to blow up Sevastopol and kill the specimen. And it's during that part where earlier in the game, Amanda finds the black box, and it says that the files were corrupted. She's not able to get the closure she was seeking. She does get it when she finally confronts Marlowe towards the end, where he had stored that info on the Anisadora, and she hears the final message from her mother. How did you guys feel about that?
You want to go first?
Yeah, I thought it was heartfelt. Like, I mean, it was hard because it's Sigourney Weaver's voice, which was dope.
That's something.
And she
just
has
know.
like a perfect voice for messages.
They did bring her in.
So this game basically enabled a cast reunion for the original Alien film for the first time since that movie came out.
That's cool.
So that was also like Ian Holmes as Ash and John Hurt as
Dallas. I don't think John Hurt.
Is John Hurt even? Are some of these people even alive anymore? Like,
I don't think Kane.
Because Ian Holmes just died like a month or two ago.
Yeah, he passed away pretty recently. No, I don't think John Hurt and I don't think Kane had any voice work in the game, but everyone else did.
Well, Dallas was in the game, so.
No, I'm not talking about Dallas. John Hurt.
Yeah, it's John Hurt played Dallas.
No, John Hurt played Kane.
Oh, I'm sorry. You're right.
Yes. Yeah. John Hurt and Kane, I don't think made any sort of vocal appearance, or I don't think they appeared he appeared in the Crew Expendable. I can't remember, but everyone else in the game, or everyone else from the original film, came back and reprised their roles for that DLC, and also in those voice recordings for the Nostromo logs. So, and any bit that we hear Ellen Ripley, it is Sigourney Weaver.
Yeah.
Because I was
awesome.
wondering, because they were so close. I'm like, there's no way they got everybody. That'd probably be like half the game's budget.
So, well, when we heard the message, first of all, if you don't watch the Alien movie, you can still enjoy this game. I just want to say that. And if you heard that message, I think it's more heartfelt because you don't actually know what happened to Ellen Ripley. And so in that moment you would discover it. But for someone that already knows what happened to her, she's just explaining what happened in Alien. And it was the first time that you heard her have like a kind of a love or affection expressed toward her daughter. Yeah. Which is not something you heard her do except when she was talking about Newt in Aliens.
Right.
Yeah.
The fact that she even has a daughter isn't in the original movie.
No.
Correct, it's not. And
she has Jones, the cat.
Joan. She has
the smartest character in the franchise.
I thought it was a little strange that they had the message, and obviously we hear that message in the film, and then immediately at the end of the message she gives a message to her daughter. So that was just a little jarring because we obviously don't hear that in the original film. That's ostensibly the end of what she has to say. So just from that aspect it was a little weird. But it's still it was heartfelt. The character that we've been playing as, that we've been rooting for, got her closure. And then we also got like a cool scripted sequence of her having to run out of the, I would say scripted sequence, set piece of her having to run out of the exploding Anesidora, which was pretty cool.
Yeah, it was fun.
I'll say that while I appreciate, I liked Sigourney Weaver's performance, and I agree that she did well. The problem I had was just that it didn't really impact me. And this is something, again, I keep hinting, we'll get to it with characters. It's the same thing when, for the first time, you eject that first alien out, and you're kind of betrayed, and when Samuel sacrifices himself for you to disarm Apollo. These are some really cool looking moments, and from a writing perspective, mechanically, they're right where they need to be.
Yeah.
So that the game is well paced, although I do think length is an issue, and I'm sure we'll get to that.
Yes, we will.
But the actual impact of these moments is kind of lessened because I care so little and I'm given very little regarding the characters, and I'll let Mark guide when we get to that, unless you want to do that right now.
I mean, we could start talking about the characters. I think anything else that has to come out of the plot, it'll come out as we talk.
Yeah, it's really, because from that point, it's really just an escalation of, all right, we get access to this area. Oh no, this thing blows up. Let's go fix it. Oh no, this thing blows up. Let's go over here. Oh no, alien. Let's eject it. There's a little while without the alien. Now the androids are here.
I feel like that's a common thing. That's a common.
It's an action movie trope. You're just escalating tension.
I would say not even action, like an action movie trope, but like it's really common in these hide and seek type horror games. I remember when I played Outlast. Outlast was the same fucking way, but Outlast didn't, in my opinion. And we don't have to go into this with a different game, but like that game did not handle that type of design well because everything felt the same.
Mm-hmm.
Everything was the same situation. There's like a series of 3 rooms, and there's like 3 different things that you need to do to unblock your path, and you have to avoid this person that's patrolling these rooms. This, like, between its level design, its map design, and the things. It's not like you have to do 3 things in order to continue. It's like you have to go find this. Oh, it's not where you thought it would be. Oh, well, shit, now I need to find it. And then you can have to find like environmental clues and go exploring to figure out what it is you need in order to progress. All the while, you have this extremely dynamic threat that's popping in and out of the map looking for you, and it's completely unpredictable.
Right.
This game, like I agree. That's like a really common trapping that again, hide and seek type horror games kind of fall into. But I think this game masks it and hides it remarkably well.
Yeah, no. I'm not saying this as like a complete criticism, because I think it does that. First of all, that's something you need to do in almost any form of writing. is you need to keep escalating tensions. You need to drive the stakes up to keep your audience interested in what's going on. And this game does it really well. I just feel it does it a little too long. I feel like
Yeah.
this game should have ended about at the point where you discover the nest. Like blowing up the reactor and taking out
Yeah.
the nest should have really been the last big thing. Because once you get to the point where then from there, where you see that giant reactor surge,
But that's the
from there going
yeah.
back to hallways, and now it's just like, oh, there's more than one alien now. It's kind of like it's more annoying than anything else.
I agree
Just
100%.
and just walking slowly, even when you get outside into space,
Well,
just
I think the
walking
problem was, or
slowly
I think
outside.
I think the thing is they wanted after you go to destroy the nest, you find out that like aliens start crawling up, several dozen of them, still alive and now prowling through the station. I think they wanted to keep that in to up the ante. Like you're not just dealing with one anymore. Now it's a lot more. They're all over the place.
Yeah,
And like
Yeah.
I
see
agree
what they
with
were
you.
going for.
I agree with you. Like the game is too long. The game
Yeah.
feels far too long. It overstays its welcome. I think most of that there is a little bit after the whole nest debacle that is just a little too long. You're going between like a bunch of different places
Oh my god,
via elevators.
the worst part is when you think you hit the end and then all of a sudden you look up and the alien just knocks you down.
See, I like that.
And I hated that.
I
was
actually
like,
like that
are you
moment.
fucking kidding me? Because literally all that happens is you get back up and you go right back out the way you were going to go anyway.
I think so. I think if
And
they had what they had done is if they had trimmed some fat elsewhere, that would have felt a lot better.
yeah,
Because
I could see that.
you think you're right near the end and you get taken, and if they had taken time that they spent even right before that section where you're going back through some familiar locales that are like darker now, and you have there's that section where there's like two rooms across from each other in a hallway, and neither of the doors let you in there. You have to go all the way around the hallway, looping around to get to the one door, and then you have to come all the way back to the one room
to do the generator. I hated that.
That section sucked.
It
That
100%.
took way too long, and it just felt like bloat, and it was annoying because the alien was constantly there. Was also that scripted bit where it like jumps over some debris and comes right into the room where you're right there, and you have to spend time avoiding it. That whole part, and again, they wanted to up the ante, make the threat even worse. Like the AI is this point is at like it's at like peak levels of just like we're patrolling, we're going to fucking find you,
Right.
and they wanted to make that feel as stressful as possible.
At that point, you're talking about the area where there's all this fire everywhere. There was like that pool table.
Yeah,
yeah, and there's only that one hallway, right?
That one long hallway where you have to wind around. Yeah, that section it drags, it bloats, and it just if they had maybe cut that.
Yeah,
put the section where you go out into space and the aliens in the vent above you. They put that a little sooner, and they had given like something after where there's an alien. Because after that section, when you awake in like the mini hive that they started building, the only threats there are the face huggers that come out of it that are out patrolling, or the couple eggs that are in that little nest.
And honestly, those things started to annoy me more than the actual aliens, because by that point you have like a flamethrower, Molotovs. The face huggers though, because I didn't want to waste any fuel or Molotov shit on them, so I was using my guns. But because
what's
with
funny?
the analog stick, it's so jerky to aim at them, and even if you do like aim directly at them and shoot, sometimes the game just glitches and misses.
Automatically hit them with my wrench.
I was about to say. Yeah. I didn't know the first time I played it, like 3 years ago, that you could melee them, and it was basically a guaranteed kill.
Oh, I did not know that.
Yeah, it's a game changer.
Yeah.
Except when you have two of them coming at you, which only happens like once or twice in the game, then you have to burn them. But yeah, I feel like I agree. If they would have cut out either sections in the beginning of the game before you get to the engineer room where the nests are, or because I really liked going back to the medical pavilion, which was the scariest location for me, and having more of a threat. But if they would have cut
Metroidvania feel, where you saw all these panels earlier in the game, where it's like you need the ion thing, you need the I love Metroidvania design like that.
Yeah,
same. So if they would have cut out a little bit from the beginning or that section that we just talked about, I think it would have felt less dragged out.
And also another section to me that felt incredibly dragged out was that like midsection after you jettison the alien, where your threat is the androids. That feels like it's far too long, or far longer than it needs to be.
They don't give you the proper tools, I feel, to combat, because it feels like for a good chunk, especially when the androids get those suits that protect them from electricity.
Yeah.
Which is just the fucking most frustrating thing, because at that point the only thing you can do is bolt them.
I didn't know that's what that was. I thought they were just wearing rain jackets.
I kept throwing all my EMP grenades.
From the rain.
I threw all my EMP grenades and used all my resources because I had no idea why they weren't stopping.
Yeah.
And at that point, I was just out of resources, and I'm like, "What the fuck is this?" Like,
I mean, you could like use other guns. The bolt gun, once you get that, it's like the most effective thing against them, because one headshot and they're down.
Yeah, but right before you get that, they take all your goddamn weapons away, and you have like 50,000 androids to avoid before you get to the Apollo room.
Yeah, that's like kind of the section that I'm talking about.
Because the Apollo section, where you actually have the bolt gun, and you just made it out of the nest, and all of a sudden all these androids are coming at you, and you're just making a stand with the bolt gun.
Yeah,
that's so much fun. And
it is.
To be fair, a lot of that fun comes from the fantasy of you survived these assholes with nothing, and now you're just wrecking them.
Yeah.
So it's like, it's a power fantasy that has to be earned. So like there is a fine balance where you do have to kind of put some annoying shit in order to earn that awesome payoff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, just like some of those, there was some fat that they could have trimmed, and it would have felt like
I think we all agree. Yeah.
It like dropping the game from like a 16-hour game to like a 12-hour game would have done a lot for the lasting effect that it would leave. Because that's the thing, I love this game, and I love how perfectly they captured the aesthetics of the original film, the feeling through the music, the sound effects, like
everything. Everything opening, the ducts, like, the air ducts opening.
Yeah, everything about it, just like
costumes.
Yeah, it's really fantastic. And if they had if it were a shorter game, I wouldn't be sitting here like, oh yeah, this game is great, but like I wouldn't have that but moment.
Yeah,
I wouldn't
definitely
have that extra thing to say, like, but it's too long.
Mm-hmm.
It would otherwise be like a perfect horror game set within that universe.
Absolutely. They even had those stupid bird drinking toys, which I thought there might have been a trophy related to shooting them, like the Mr. Raccoons in Resident Evil, but they were just there. For Easter eggs.
Yeah.
What was it? The frogs in Snake Eater?
The Caratan frogs.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Let's jump into some of the characters. Let's start with Amanda. We talked about like her connection to aliens, but we haven't really talked about her as a character. What did we think of her?
She's a badass, just like her mom. She seems to be the only one with sense. I kind of got annoyed that everyone was relying on her for everything and no one wanted to help. They were just making demands. But the thing about this game is you don't really have any connection, like Jason said earlier, to any characters because there's no sense of what the relationship was before, even with her own mother, which is the goal of the game. So because we don't know how their relationship is, I can't really say how I feel about her in terms of personality. I just know she fucks shit up.
Yeah.
Like you put it here on our notes here, you know nothing about Amanda. You have a motivation, which is good. She wants to know what happened to her mother. That's a great motivation.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you know jack shit other than she's an engineer.
It's funny.
And it's like, if the game begins, like, there are like 3 plot points in this game. It's like, the game begins, Samuels is like, you should have closure. And then Samuels dies, and he's like, I wanted Amanda Ripley to have closure. And then Amanda Ripley reads or listens to the message, and it's like, I have closure. And it's like, at no point is there any like visual change in how her character behaves or any choices the character makes that affect
Well,
anybody.
to be
She's just
fair,
trying to survive. And to be fair, it's hard to do that in this kind of
yeah, I
plot.
mean, you find that out really close to the end, where at that point she's just like, all right, at this point, fuck closure. I just need to get the hell out of here.
Yeah. And you know, you don't necessarily need like to have a character arc, especially in a story like this. Like in the original, so in Alien, Ellen Ripley did not have a character arc.
Hmm.
She had a very strong character with a very strong personality.
Yeah.
Like she's constantly like from the beginning of the movie, she's like, no, we can't bring him on board because of quarantine. And then
Hmm.
over the course of the movie, she's like, fuck it, fuck it, fuck it. All right, now we're taking you out. You know, she gets in the fight with Ash and all that.
Yeah.
Um, and it's kind of the same here, where it's a very plot-driven story. Um, the problem is that the secondary cast, unlike the original Alien, where the secondary cast was very colorful and added a lot
Yeah.
in various ways, the secondary cast here, I couldn't even, when I was playing the game, I couldn't remember what name correlated to who. I didn't even know
Yeah.
some like towards the end of the game, there's this guy Ricardo, and I'm like, who the fuck is this guy? When I legitimately did not know who he was
he's
and when he came into
I don't
when
know who he was when as it relates to Sevastopol. I think he worked under Marshall Waits.
yeah, I think
But
that's
yeah,
what happened.
he just kind of becomes like your radio guy, where he's helping you throughout the station. He's manipulating certain entryways and doors. He's the one that's like locking and opening and locking things behind you as you're
See, I
trying
thought
to
that was
lure the
Samuels the
alien.
entire time because they
No.
Samuels had
okay.
died at that point.
Samuels,
No, even
no,
before that, when you're trying to trap the alien.
yeah, he hadn't died yet, but like Samuels, I think was MIA for that time.
Yeah, I just didn't. And I think the closest they came was Marlowe. Marlowe was definitely the most interesting of the characters, and he's kind of like a faux villain, even though his motivations
I
are
would,
like
yeah, like
somewhat righteous, actually.
yeah, like
Yeah.
his wife Foster is the one that got infected when they went to LV-426. She's the one that got a face hugger to the face, and he had to kill her, or he didn't have to. Did he
He's
kill her?
No. He's responsible for. She dies because of the chest bursting.
Right, obviously. But
Yeah,
like,
but he feels responsible for her death because
yeah, fair enough.
he took
Okay.
them to the planet. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
Which that was I I know like tying into lore, maybe they couldn't have done this because it takes 24 hours before you give birth to the alien. But I feel like they didn't show that, and that's like a really cool thing to see, like an alien coming out of someone's body.
It would have
But
been
I
a good
guess
thing for the nest sequence, yeah. If like when you're going down one of the halls, it just happens, and you have to kill like a
yeah,
baby alien, and
right.
then
yeah,
all of a sudden you hear the aliens all around you.
Yeah, that would have
Kind of
been
like
a really good moment to do that.
basic. And now that I think about it, that's basically the initial sequence in, or one of the initial sequences in Aliens, when that literally exact thing happens.
maybe they're saving that for the sequel.
I think Colonial Marines did it in for them.
No. We're not talking about Colonial Marines. We're not gonna pretend. We're not gonna dignify that game by acknowledging its existence. Something I wanted to bring up real quick, just to get this out of the way, because we're talking about Amanda, and we don't really know much about her relationship with her mother. There's a digital series that IGN published. Was it last year, a couple years ago? I forget. I watched it over the past few days, just to see and come to this discussion ready to say whether or not it's worth your time.
It's not.
Don't watch it. So like they add in like these little, they basically try to make the game into just like a small mini series, just retelling the plot of the game, but they add in these like these voiceovers from Amanda, at weird times where she's just like giving some background info, and she like goes a little bit into her relationship with her mother and her stepdad, and like talking about her mother. She's like, oh, typical mom, always chasing a paycheck. And anything she had to say, I'm like, this either doesn't add anything of value or it just sounds blatantly wrong.
Yeah.
Like, that doesn't sound like Ellen Ripley to me. Like, yeah,
Right.
I'm sure she does want to get paid, but like, I don't know.
That's for you, bitch.
It seems it was just odd. Also, since the game is it's a first person game, you only ever see Amanda in certain cutscenes. But like, there's several events that play out from that first person perspective, so that they adapted those into like third person perspectives. And it's so weird when they show like an actual cutscene that played in the game, and then they show these scenes that were supposed to be through Amanda's eyes now with newly replaced models that don't look anything. They don't look anything like they do in the actual cutscenes.
Yeah.
And it's like Amanda goes from looking like pretty close to like it would be Sigourney Weaver's daughter, like it would be Ellen Ripley's daughter, to like this smooth-faced, just generic woman NPC.
She kind of looks like God, what's her name from like from Uncharted? Why am I blanking on her? Yeah, she kind of looks like Elena with black hair. It's weird.
These models, it just keeps jumping between these actual cutscenes and these newly rendered cutscenes with poor models, and the lips don't match the vocalization. They're not lip synced at all. It's not good. I don't recommend it, but I did watch it to come here and say whether or not it's worth your time.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Always taking the hit for us.
It does give like I said, it gives like some additional background between some of these character relationships, but nothing worthwhile and nothing that seems like it would actually be accurate. It's very, very strange. I'm not really sure why it exists, but it does. But I wanted to bring that up because of the character relationships thing you mentioned.
Yeah.
Honestly, from me, I really don't have anything to say about any of the characters except Marlo, who came close to being interesting because it was almost like it was very similar to Ash in the movie, who's like, it's the perfect being. It is not controlled by conscious. It is born. It is bred to kill. And then Marlo was like, it doesn't matter. Once it comes in contact with a human being, everybody's dead. So we got to kill it right here, right now.
Speaking of, I did like that the trophy and achievement lists like made references to lots of lines from the film. Like, I forget what which achievement or trophy this was, but there was one that was just that was titled "I admire its purity."
Right.
The perfect organism, and little references like that. I did like that.
Yeah.
And also, I think it was like chapter 12 in Siegs and Synthetics. There's somebody sitting at a desk chair behind a desk, and their head is like tilted upwards, and they have a magazine shoved in there, and that was that was a really cool homage to that scene. I didn't notice that the first time I played through the game, but I noticed it this time. They really did. Creative Assembly really did pour a lot of love and heart into making Sevastopol a setting worth being in this franchise. They really made sure it fit. And that it shows. Like I'm very pleased with it.
It is a game, so storytelling in games, while there's a lot of similarities, depending on what kind of game it is, like a Naughty Dog game tends to be way more cinematic. This is very much a game focused on the game itself.
Yeah.
And on top of that, the story, like we just said, is very plot driven. The plot, despite the criticisms we had, I feel like even though it's a little long and drags a little bit, maybe is predictable, very well executed nonetheless, constantly driving up the stakes, awesome set pieces. And the gameplay, as I'm sure we'll get to in a little bit, is fucking amazing for the most part.
Yeah, I mean,
So
For
it, even
sure.
even if the cast is somewhat lacking, and even the protagonist is somewhat lacking, the other things make up for it a bit. Especially because if this were a movie or like a book or something, it would fucking suck. But because it's a game and you are
Yeah.
Amanda for all intents and purposes, you know it works.
Yeah, and I feel like I wonder what the perspective would be of someone who has not watched the movies, because I don't know if it would be as predictable if that was the case.
Right,
Because
right.
it's mostly predictable because we saw the movies and it really closely
yeah,
mirrors it.
I don't even feel like it's that predictable, to be honest. I didn't feel that it was that predictable, but like if you like, I could see why someone would. I could see why you did, Jason.
Yeah,
Um,
especially because it's one of my favorite franchises of all time. Like
yeah, like
I'm fucking at the moment I am in the middle of writing a story that is not inspired, but the aesthetic of the world of the story is
mhm.
inspired by it. So take from that what you will.
Hell yeah.
Do we wanna start talking about game? I think we've covered everything in the story
Yeah.
that we need to cover, or that we want to cover, and if anything else comes up, we can double back and talk about it. But do we want to start talking about gameplay?
Yes.
Go ahead.
I'll just say this is one of the scariest games I've ever played.
Mm.
And that is playing a 2014 game in 2020 for the first time.
Yeah.
And for a game that old to still have that much suspense, I was surprised. I didn't think this was going to be the scariest games
Did
I've
you
ever
play
played.
with headphones on?
Of course, of
Yeah.
course. I play all my horror games like that. And yeah, I mean, the footsteps, like the sound design, hearing the creaking in the walls, kind of like Resident Evil 2 remake. Like it was so perfect in capturing the suspense that the first movie had. And also just the suspense of a really good, solid horror game. So if you like horror games, even if you don't care for the Alien series, I think you're going to like this game because it's fucking scary. I guess that's the first thing. The second thing is the enemies were very contained. There's not much variety, but
No, not at all.
they kept it to like loyal to the Alien series. You don't see the only new enemy I would say is humans, even though
Yeah.
humans were the enemy before, but in a
In a
more
different
emotional way,
Yeah.
not like just people shooting on sight, which makes sense, right?
And
And
even then you do
yeah.
have Taylor backstab you and then she gets fucked up by the fusion reactor for it. So
Yeah.
Well, she I wouldn't say she backstabs you, but she does try to make good on it by helping you at
Yeah.
that point. But anyway, yeah.
Yeah, and I like how fighting each enemy you needed a different approach. Like you couldn't kill the alien until you got the flamethrower, and even then you couldn't kill him. You could just make him run
No,
away.
Animals are scared of fire.
Exactly. The humans you could like shoot or melee if you get them from behind, and the androids were bullet sponges, so you could only one shot them with the bolt gun if you fully charged it,
Yeah.
or you can burn them a few times with your flamethrower, which is honestly a waste of that kind of fuel.
Yes.
So I liked that the enemies you had to approach them differently, and then the face huggers, which you could just whack, they were just like an obstacle, really, more than an
on
enemy.
that quick note, did you guys feel any? So they chose to make the aliens essentially invincible. Just you could scare them away with the flamethrower, especially considering in Aliens, like waves of them are getting mowed down by the Marines. Did you feel any like ludonarrative dissonance, especially at the point where you have like a shotgun and like a bolt gun? You know, did you feel any ludonarrative dissonance that we couldn't use those items as well? I mean, I get it from a design perspective. You don't want to give so many options just to take out that alien. You want to limit your options for each enemy type.
I think had I been able to use those weapons, it would have felt like an action game instead of a horror game.
And I think
Yeah,
the
that's what I
game
mean.
I think the game also naturally manages to wean you off of using those weapons anyway, unless otherwise just as a last resort, because they make a lot of noise. Noise attracts the alien, so on and so like even when the alien's in the vicinity, you're not thinking like, oh, let me just pop out my trusty 6-shooter and start blasting. No, because you're not really using it all that much unless you absolutely have to, or there's a sequence, there's a part of the game, like after you jettison it into space, where you can actively use stuff like that because there's no alien actively on the station.
I was gonna bring that part up. That was and again, not going back to story, but just bring it up real quick. That's a great example of how tensions are heightened at that point. You jettison the alien, and then it relaxes a bit.
Yeah.
And you can just go ham with your shotgun, with your pistol, and you have so much ammo at that point.
Yeah.
The music too. Sometimes I would go to read a data pad, which actually pissed me off, and then I would hear like this foreboding music pop while I'm reading, and I'm like, "Oh my god, is the alien right behind me?" And then
you hear that big like
yeah,
and you hear like the little rattle that it like or like the I don't even know how to describe it. The sound that it makes when it's like it's hissing.
Yeah.
That sound, you're like, oh fuck, you got to get off the terminal.
That's actually a dude. That's a voice actor that made that.
Oh,
I'm
sure it is, but like
the original one from the movie.
I'm like, I just like can't accurately describe it well. It's like
I
like
had always thought they like recorded a snake or something and played around with it, but it's like no, that was just a dude. Like he's like a metal singer. I don't remember.
But yeah, I wouldn't say it caused ludonarrative dissonance. Like I said, the game kind of naturally encourages you not to use that weapon, those weapons, unless you absolutely have to. So I never really felt like they would be effective against the alien to begin with.
Yeah.
But if they had gone through with having acid blood be a mechanic in the game, I mean, yeah, could you imagine how much of a nightmare that would have been?
Oh my god.
Right.
You shoot a shotgun blast at the alien, it doesn't die, and acid blood starts flying everywhere, melting through the station.
I agree. I'm not going to give him shit for it, especially because like it would have been a design nightmare.
Yeah.
And that's the first thing that comes to mind because in the movies when they start blowing up the aliens, the one guy gets his face fucked up by the pools of acid and whatnot, but. Yeah, no, I was just curious as to how you guys felt about that.
Yeah, it never really bothered me. I definitely recognized it as like why does acid blood like not do like why is nothing it's kind of weird that nothing happens when I shoot at this thing and nothing happens. But
yeah,
they don't mention it, they don't bring it up, so it kind of just
like it didn't. I didn't like want to get on the game's case about it. Like I noticed it, but I moved on very quickly.
Mm-hmm.
I wonder if the game would have done better without the face huggers. Like I liked seeing them, but I wonder if we didn't have to fight them. If it,
I
thought they were kind of annoying.
I thought they upped especially if you're going for the trophy, or achievement for getting through the entire game without dying.
Oh yeah,
they are
because they one shot you if you don't kill them in time.
Yeah, well, there's that, but also like you can kind of cheat the system by when the alien when you know the alien's going to kill you, like you can hear it when it like screeches and starts running at you, or even if it grabs you, if you pause the game fast enough and reload your save, you're fine.
Yeah.
Face huggers kill you so fast that you don't have that luxury of reaction time.
Wow. Yeah.
So going for that trophy and having to deal with them was a pain in the ass. Now, if I had known back then when I went for the platinum like years ago, if I had known that meleeing was like the most effective and also quietest way of dealing with them, it would have been way easier. When I played through on Xbox this time and getting the achievement was nowhere near as hard as it was or as I remembered it being because of that reason.
Yeah.
Even though personally I found them annoying in the moment, looking back at it from a design perspective, I do think it was implemented well, especially because no matter how you killed them, their screams alerted aliens in the area to your presence.
They still. I like their inclusion. I understand why it was frustrating, especially because like they're so small.
It was frustrating in a good way, I think.
There's that one part, I think it might be the last section where you encounter them. You're in vents, and like there's like 2 or 3 of them in the vents, and the vents kind of branch multiple ways, so you don't know
So you don't know where they're
gonna
coming
fucking
from.
come from.
Right.
You just hear their stupid little footsteps crawling towards
which
you.
is definitely the most stressful bit with them, just because it's
I
so
know
easy to
I know
die
the
there.
exact stretch that you're talking about. It's right after you get knocked back down.
Yeah.
And I had to replay that whole stretch like over and over again because you're basically there are no save points, so you're basically just making it to the auto checkpoints.
Yeah.
And like I know exactly what you're talking about.
Oh, that was another section that they definitely should have cut, was that bit with the trains.
Yes.
Yeah, that was weird.
Oh,
When
it was so
I died
stupid.
from the first train when I walked out, and I was like, "What killed me?"
Yeah.
And it really pissed me off that I didn't know what killed me. I hate when games do that.
It was like they were trying to up the ante for what was going to be basically the finale of the game by almost turning it into an action movie when that wasn't what the game was.
Yeah, I guess I in our notes I forgot a threat. I put aliens, facehuggers, humans, and androids. I guess I forgot to add trains.
Yeah.
It was so frustrating. And also, what I find amusing is how fast they were going. But anytime you get on one, it seems like it's the slowest fucking thing.
Yeah.
Like, what train goes that fast
Yeah.
on
Right.
Sevastopol? Where are they? Let me ride one, please.
Yeah. One thing I wanted to ask is how you guys feel that they didn't have an alien queen.
So, if you watch the director's cut of the original movie, it is actually introduced that there doesn't need to be a queen for like people to be webbed up in and eggs and more face huggers and all that shit. The queen was introduced in Aliens, the sequel. So from a lore standpoint, like it didn't really bother me. I know some people were apparently bothered by it that didn't see the director's cut of the original, but it is heavily implied that you don't necessarily need a queen. I don't think this game needed a queen just because what purpose would it serve?
Yeah, if you can't kill it.
Yeah, if
Yeah.
you're not gonna fight it, like, and I don't. I think with how all other aliens in the game are treated, why would you fight it? Your first instinct would be to just run from it. But
And the queen would be tall enough to like look over any cover, like from a design perspective. Just why?
no, I think if we want to talk about the lack of an inclusion of a queen, let's talk about the Hive a little bit. I mean, I thought the Hive was that was terrifying.
Yeah.
Going down into
That was my favorite part of the game. Yeah.
Going down into engineering, and all you see are people stuck to the walls and eggs everywhere.
Yeah, that
You
was
know,
definitely the coolest.
You're dealing with that's the first time you deal with face huggers. Because of all the eggs that are laying around, and there's multiple aliens just like walking around there.
Yeah.
That's why I
places
basically
to
thought
hide.
that. That's why I basically thought that should have been the climax of the game. The nest, the overcharging the reactor, and then you got to get out of there.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
don't disagree with that. Like that, trimming some of the stuff, like leave some of the stuff after that. I again still really
Or
like
maybe
the section.
move some stuff from after back.
Yeah,
Basically rejigger it, reassemble it so that it still ends with the Hive in the reactor, but some of the stuff that happens after that gets
Yeah.
moved before it. Yeah.
yeah. I could see that working. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say the one part of the gameplay that I really didn't like was the hacking. Only eventually, like at
Oh.
first it was fine, but eventually I was just like, it had that Bioshock syndrome, where after a while I got tired of it.
That's
I
fair.
enjoyed the main hacking game where with the symbols.
Yeah.
Oh
where you
yeah,
have like a few seconds, but whenever you got those random ones, there were some of them I didn't even understand what I was doing.
Yeah.
But apparently I
it
did.
works.
I mean, some
Yeah.
of them weren't even like good mini games. Like the regular one with the symbols was the main one, and that one worked well because it's all based on like you have to find the sequence with the stick, and then you have to enter it quickly, which
Yes.
was I liked it. It was enjoyable. It didn't like require a loading screen other than the one that's actually on your hacking device, and it was like pretty quick and painless. You know, you get in, 20 seconds later you're hacked in. It really wasn't that bad. Some of them were just like there's numbers scrolling and they're all like a dark green except one of them that's white, and you gotta highlight that one. That's like not a game. That's not fun.
You're just waiting for the right number to come up. Yeah.
The one with the 3 bars that are sliding across, and you got to stop it right on the right point. I had like Final Fantasy X, like Tidus Overdrive flashbacks, trying to stop that fucking thing, and I kept fucking it up. And like they do up the ante because like nothing around you stops.
Yes.
So like if you hear the alien and you're in the middle of hacking, it's like, oh my god, get me out of here. It's like. I do like that. It really ups the stress, but when you're getting frustrated at trying to stop a fucking bar on another bar like 3 times and try to get the timing right, and you fucking hear the alien, it just becomes so annoying.
You know, I want to bring this up real quick in case I forget it, because I remember being at a terminal at one point, and there was a friendly average Joe, or working Joe, I'm sorry.
Friendly average Joe.
Friendly average Joe.
Just trying to make a living.
Basically, one of the working Joes that's not trying to kill you was just hanging around, but the alien was also in that space, and I was at a terminal. And I just love the dialogue between the working Joes and the alien. They're like, "You are not human. You should not be here." And it's like, Apollo reporting a newly identified organism.
Sometimes when you killed the androids, they made a funny noise too.
Yeah.
But yeah, the part about the hacking that I did like was when I'm thinking about that one sequence when an android was like coming out of a chamber and you had to hack in time and like circle around before it started attacking you. That's those puzzles were like really suspenseful, but it just happened too much. Like too many doors to unlock and things to solve. And they were kind of redundant, I guess.
I think what was equally annoying was with the blowtorch. If you're cutting off it's mostly the big metal doors that lead to vents as opposed to like the small ones that lead to levers. The big ones, if you don't like arc your stick correctly in the corner, like you get caught up on that and you kind of figure it out like. What direction do they want me to push the stick in right now to make this thing go?
I get the push for immersion, but like especially if you've just watched the alien jump back up into the vents, and it's like, all right, now's my chance. Like they with stuff like that, when you're cutting open the doors, they should have just like, all right, we're freezing the alien while this is happening. At least if it's off screen. If it's already on screen when you start, it's different. You know what I'm saying?
I mean, I never felt it was too hard to deal with in situations like that, but it could get really annoying when it's like
it happened from time to time, and it didn't happen too often, but
how about hiding from the alien? Like you got lots of options, lockers, you can hide under desks and stuff. Did we feel like this was well done? I think you even had like lean mechanics and stuff to lean and you did. What am I talking about?
You had a motion tracker, but the tracker also attracted the alien to you.
Yeah. Like, how did we feel about these
the hiding was great. I mean, Outlast also did this well, and it created suspense and horror. But the only thing that bothered me specifically about the alien is that it always knew where you were. Like, I feel like the AI was programmed to always know where you were.
It is to an extent programmed to know what generic area you're in.
Yeah.
So, like, there was one time where I turned around a bit too fast for the game, and I saw the alien, like the model of the alien, like being thrown. It was a glitch. It was being thrown up from the floor to the ceiling. Without going like through vents. It just like the alien wasn't moving. It was just a frozen alien floating through the floor. It looked like an N64 game glitching out. But like, yes, they do teleport it around to your general area.
Yeah.
But once you exit certain areas, that stops. It only picks back up where the game wants it to.
Yeah.
But overall, I thought the stealth was very good. I love the ability to like you could throw a sound thing by a group of humans walking by and then like watch them get ripped apart as you just sneak on by. Like
that's another thing to bring up is this game because every game this gen needed it. This game has a crafting system.
Oh yeah.
Because you spend a large portion of the game rummaging through cabinets and boxes and shit, grabbing whatever junk you can find so that you can put together some sort of noisemaker.
I gotta be honest with you. It took me a hot minute to figure out how to craft in that game. Like, I didn't realize that you had to press left and right in addition to up and down in order to put the crafting item in the slot. So for a while, I just thought I didn't have the materials, but I was like, then when I finally understood the mapping of the crafting system, then it was fine. But then I hated that I had to, every time I craft something, go back into the menu to then craft it again. But that's just, it's an older game. So,
well, the other thing it does, and I was so mad I didn't realize it until later, is when you dedicate resources to items, it's basically a not a cheat, like a, it's not even
it's
a
like
glitch.
extra
it's just
storage.
yeah.
If you max out a specific resource, like, okay, I need a noisemaker, so I can put something in towards making that, and I can put something towards making a pipe bomb, and like this and that. It is like a nice way to allocate resources that you're full on, so that you can grab more. And I will give the game this, as much shit as I give crafting systems in games nowadays, because I'm just so sick of crafting. This game does make an effort to make it actually engaging, in that in order to craft something, you do have to go into the blueprint and then allocate the resources there to the places. And once you have everything allocated that's necessary, you can build the thing. As opposed to just like, oh, I have enough shit to build a Molotov. Press and hold X. Okay, it's built. Oh, I can build another. Press and hold X. Okay, it's much more engaging. And it also kind of does add to that stress level of I'm in the middle of the situation. Man, a noisemaker would be really helpful, but nothing stops. I have to go in and allocate this shit and build it.
You have to be hidden, like you have to go into a locker or under a desk and do it.
It makes you feel like in the middle of this stressful situation, you are actually scrambling to put this thing together that will ultimately help you. But it's like, if you were in that situation yourself, you'd be like, shaking trying to get it done. It's not just a hold of a button and it's done.
It's also one of the few things, and throwing character into this real quick, like we were talking, there's not much in the way of story character, like personality wise, but like in terms of from a gameplay perspective, it's a good way of using the gameplay itself and the medium to give Amanda some character, because she is an engineer. Like, unlike a lot of games that have crafting these days, it makes fucking sense that she would be able to craft.
Yes.
She's an engineer. She reads this shit. Like, it makes sense that she'd be able to open all this stuff with blowtorches and wrenches and shit. Like, so it does give, that bit of character to her through the actual gameplay itself.
Yeah.
So I did really, I liked that, and I enjoyed the crafting, again, for the reasons you stated, Mark.
Yeah.
All right, I think we've covered the gameplay for the most part. I like the stealth. I think the stealth was well done.
Yeah. Me too.
Yeah, that's. I guess let's talk about just the last few topics that we have. We haven't talked much about the collectibles, which I want to start instituting a new segment into the show, and that's called the Jason test. And this test, to give you an introduction, is if there's collectibles in a video game, typically collectibles, that'll give you some sort of additional information, something you can read, maybe get some lore information, story information, environmental storytelling, what have you. This test is to see if Jason actually goes out of his way to collect and or read these collectibles. So Jason, does this game pass the Jason test?
So for those of you who don't know, my general feeling on a lot of games that use archive materials, the kind of collectibles that Mark's talking about that include important information, not just lore, but in many instances plot information. My stance on it is, if you can't tell the story in the game, and you expect me to go out of my way to find extra stuff to understand your story, then you have failed as a storyteller. I found that this is the first game I've played that has this sort of material that caused me to have a more nuanced look at it.
Ooh.
So, for example, if you, and shameless plug, if you go back to our episode on BioShock Infinite, I found myself towards the end of us talking about the story, I had almost like I had a very, very loose understanding about what had just happened at the end of the plot. I won't go into the actual plot itself, but like Mark, because he had gone through and read all the or listened to all the logs that you can collect, had all this interesting lore at his fingertips that fully explained what exactly happened in BioShock Infinite.
I will say there was also some wiki reading there.
Yeah,
it
so,
wasn't
like,
all just from the game, but
so that is just, in my opinion, objectively bad storytelling, and especially because you have to go out of your way to collect this stuff. So it's almost like trophy hunters who do that sort of thing will have a leg up on story content
two
over
of them
like
on this show.
yeah, two of them on the show. But what I really liked about this game was that the collectibles, particularly the collectibles with story elements, are tied to actual gameplay. So throughout the game, you will be interacting with various terminals. You'll use them to activate certain technologies aboard the Sevastopol and the other crafts that you're on. You'll use them to get information like codes and shit to open doors. You use them to open doors. You'll use them to activate camera systems, manipulate all sorts of stuff. And then to the side, you'll see, archived readings. Usually next to them on a desk, you'll see you can play some kind of tape recorder and you'll be able to listen to something. And because it's there, like as you're doing whatever with the gameplay, like I felt more inclined to read it because it was placed right there as I'm playing. It's brief. They're very brief in length. And a lot of it isn't necessarily tied straight on to the plot. Like you don't need to touch really any of it to understand the plot as it's presented to you. Because the plot, as we discussed before, is very straightforward. A lot of it just adds to the atmosphere and the world around you.
Yeah.
Like it's very much like God, I forget
The Last
the name.
of Us.
Yes, you knew exactly where I was going. The guy on the beach in The Last of Us. You have that reporter who came to try to find out if there was any trouble, and herself becomes a victim. You have, various employees of various businesses as they shut down, as the Sevastopol is closing. You get an insight into the owners and the guys who are running the Sevastopol for Siegson, and you get clues that they found a cellar relatively early on, and like as Mark noted before, that evolves into Weyland Yutani. So it's actually hinted at and foreshadowed very early.
Yeah.
So, but you don't need that to understand the story.
Yeah.
It just happens. And if you have that stuff, it really just accentuates it. Yeah, I mean, I don't think it was necessarily like a must do, but it definitely added to the experience.
So, did this game pass the Jason test?
See, I don't like the premise of the question pass the test. Because like, I guess if you're framing it,
if it got you to seek things out and read them,
I didn't actively seek anything
but
out.
You
that
read
wasn't
things like
but I read.
Yeah,
I read all the stuff whenever I came across a terminal.
All things considered, like you could go to a terminal that you need to go to in order to open a door, and just
then
not
leave.
read the things. You could just go straight to open the door. But if you sat there and you read the things, I consider that a win.
Yeah.
Or if you saw a terminal that you didn't have to go to, but did you see a terminal on the path you were headed and stop at it?
No. I stopped at everyone. Yeah.
Yeah. So
part of that was also because as I noticed that in the beginning of the game, I started specifically going to the or making sure I went to every terminal I saw.
Mm-hmm.
But I would say if that's the bar, yes, it passed the test.
Okay.
And I thought that it actually did it in a way that did not hurt the game, and if anything, helped it.
Yeah.
So it shows a way that games can actually use this stuff in um, to accentuate a story but not hurt it.
Okay.
Yeah, I agree with everything Jason said about the collectibles. The only thing that turned me off to reading them is the fact that most of the time an alien or an android was probably going to kill me if I did it.
And the way you could get around that is just like scroll through them real quick to add them to your menu, and then you could pause the game and read them in your menu.
They're all there.
I didn't know that.
You could do that instead, but I didn't really want to do it that way because I like the whole idea of, okay, I'm going to read this stuff, but I better read it quickly or else the alien's going to come and fucking get me. Like, I don't know. When it comes to games like this, I like the added stress of it. That being said, there were still moments where I did just go through everything really quickly to pause and then read them. But okay, the Nostromo logs I think were really cool, but you probably didn't hear most of those, Jason.
The tapes that you play?
There's 10.
No, I played those.
But like, how many did you get?
Oh, I don't know exactly how many. I know I got one that was like I got a couple that was like a Russian lady. I got one that was the reporter that was dying.
I'm talking about like the
Nostromo
logs,
sorry.
Like from the Nostromo crew.
So I got like 3 or 4 that was Dallas, and he's complaining about getting Ash, the new science officer.
Yeah.
I got 1 or 2 that was Ash. I don't know exactly how many. I think I got at least like 5 or 6.
Because the thing about those that they're very bottom heavy, I guess. You don't have the things that you need in order to access the vast majority of them until the very end of the game, and most of them require backtracking to like past areas in order to find them.
Yeah.
And I wasn't crazy about that because you're hiding like probably your coolest collectible. Like I understand you want to reward people for exploring and going back and stuff, but like I feel like there should have been a better balance because
at that point there's also multiple aliens in those prior areas, right?
And going back to those areas is all the more threatening.
I wish they would have
the coolest collectible.
I wish they would have done it like they did with Resident Evil 2, where like once you loop back to the police station, there's no threat of the tyrant, and you can kind of just explore and pick things up that you missed. I wish they gave an opportunity for that, or maybe they did, and I just wasn't good enough to detect it.
I can't recall if there was like a better free period. I still think like the best time to go back is like after you attack the hive and they all go loose throughout the station. I think that's the best and only time when you have everything you need. To do that kind of exploration. But yeah, like the Nostromo logs, I also feel like they didn't add a whole lot. It was really cool to have that original cast reprise their roles and give like additional recordings and performances for those characters.
It was mostly, if I remember, it was all like before they took off, right?
Yeah, it was either before they took off or right after they took off before they went into hypersleep.
Yeah.
But yeah, like just some recordings from Dallas, Ash, Parker, Brett, and Lambert. And the Lambert ones,
I only had Dallas and Ash, so I didn't.
The Lambert ones were really funny because she just came off like so bitchy.
Well, she was a bitch in the movie.
Like every time she goes to finish off her recording, she's like, Lambert out. She just seems like so like catty, and like she's annoyed at everything that's going on, even before shit hits the fan. It was just kind of funny. Hers seemed the most odd out of all of them.
Ripley, and I say this, Ripley is one of my favorite characters of all time. Ripley was a bitch in the original, and in both of the movies as well. But like, she was a bitch for a reason. Like, she was being stern. She's like, no.
Everyone else was dumb. That's why. I would have been a bitch too.
I wouldn't say she was a bitch because there was purpose. Yes, there was purpose behind that sternness.
I'm being hyperbolic. Yeah, she was.
I feel like she should have been more of a bitch in that situation because they literally from that point that they didn't listen to her, everything went to shit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She should have just punched them all in the face.
But yeah, anyway, that's kind of what I wanted to say about the Nostromo logs. The other big collectible you can get are ID tags, which were lame.
Yeah.
There were like
They were
50.
just there.
There were like 50 of them, and like some
Just
of them.
like this dead body was this guy. Oh, okay.
Yeah, and like some of them did tell an interesting story, but most of them didn't.
Yeah.
Like the vast majority of them didn't really tell anything. It was just like, here's a tag, it's something to collect. You get it at this many, okay, you get a trophy. That's it. That's the only purpose I really felt that they served. You did remind me of something that I wanted to include, Jason, along like with like going to terminals to activate things and hacking, as Delaila brought up. There's those little terminals on the walls that you can use to allocate power.
Oh.
And I felt like those were a huge missed opportunity.
Yes. They could have been puzzles, but like I almost never used
not
them.
even like, well, I mean, like I guess puzzles in the sense of they could have been like something that really aided you in like distracting the alien or redirecting it elsewhere.
Yeah.
Or like
Yeah.
even redirecting like a human threat, like say in a room over, there's like a bunch of scavengers that are like ready to kill you on sight, and you can like do something on one of those terminals that like I don't know, sets off the fire alarm in another room, and they all go to check that out, clearing your path. But like all you really get are like air purification,
And
which
cameras
does
and, like,
fucking
yeah.
nothing. The cameras, like, yeah, there's cameras that sometimes there's like security cameras that are on that you got to turn off. But like, it would be so cool if there were other things, other distractions you could turn on if you
Kinda
allocate
like,
power the right way.
That one section I mentioned it earlier, the first section where you see the androids in the anti-electric suits.
Yeah, yeah.
However, when you first activate the reactor that you're in, the first time you activate it like there's lightning shooting everywhere, and if any android that's in that room will be killed by the environment, regardless of whether they're wearing a suit or not. So it's kind of like an environmental way to take them out, even though at that point you haven't really figured out that they're immune to your EMPs and whatnot yet. So it would have been like a similar thing, that like a way to defend yourself using the environment.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the only time that the game did that was when you were able to activate the fire that comes through the door when you had the androids lined up.
The
That
last
was-
stand where you go
yeah.
into that room and they got all the supplies, and then the
It's like if you-
showcase room.
Yeah, if you didn't activate the fire, they would have came to you and killed you. But if you activated it, they would come to you on fire and thus weaker.
Yeah.
I feel like if those terminals would have done like a little more environmental stuff like fire or electricity, it would have been cooler. The air purification was only useful really for me to stealth around, but then I couldn't see, so it was like, okay, maybe not worth
And
it.
I don't even know that it really did much in that regard, you know? Like,
Yeah.
I feel like those could have been a game changer. Frankly, they could have added so much to how you get through some of those areas, and they just felt like such a huge wasted opportunity.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I totally forgot about those until you mentioned like like going to terminals and activating shit there. So yeah, I'm glad I remembered that. One more thing, I guess, before we get to the final question. Did anyone do any of the DLC?
I didn't. I don't think so.
Yeah. Jason, did you?
There was DLC.
Okay.
Was it the Survivor thing?
So there's the survival maps and stuff, but they did basically recreate the Nostromo and allow you to play as there's a
Ellen?
mission where you can play as Dallas trying to lock the alien in the air vents.
I hope they didn't do the as much as I love the original movie, that one scene still makes me laugh.
Oh, where he turns and the
Yeah,
and
it's like
yeah.
it's like ah.
It's something to bring up, I guess. It is kind of funny going from the original Alien, where it is a guy in a suit, and it's kind of restricted to that fact, and then to this game where it's like an actual alien.
I mean, for anybody who hasn't seen it, that's just one scene because they're constricted within like a vent.
Yeah.
But all the other scenes, you have stunt guys on like wires doing really creepy shit. Like,
Yeah.
it was great for its time.
Yeah. But anyway, there's a mission where you play as Dallas trying to during the part where he's going through the vents trying to trap the alien, and the other one is Ripley trying to escape the Nostromo. I played, I think, the Dallas mission years ago, and I don't think I ever got around to doing the Ripley mission. I was just curious if anyone tried out the DLC.
Mm-mm.
And
I didn't even know there was DLC.
Yeah,
so.
it's called Crew Expendable.
Okay.
And there is another one there are those like survival maps where you have to like do the objectives as quickly as possible while not dying and shit like that. But
sounds annoying.
the most I did of that was to grind deaths.
I feel like
achievement.
What probably happened, because I believe I got this game around the time it launched. What probably happened was I going into the holiday season, I got caught up in some big release. I think that year it was Dragon Age Inquisition or something.
It might have been Destiny.
Or Destiny, yeah.
Destiny did come out like right before Alien Isolation did. So
it's probably why I didn't play it.
Might be.
Yeah.
Okay. Did anyone else go
ahead? I just want to say the game that I can compare this to the most is BioShock, and I mean that in a good way. And I feel like this was like if BioShock went to space, the Sevastopol, and like seeing like the arcades and the restaurants, and that there was like this like hub area that people went to.
Yeah, now that you mentioned that, at first I was skeptical, but now I get it.
Yeah, and it kind of makes me want a BioShock game in space now.
I mean, I think to not go too off topic, I think if when we do see the next BioShock game, where else could they go?
Yeah, they've been underwater, they've been in the sky.
I think it would be interesting to see, especially because given the kinds of aesthetics that BioShock tends toward, you would probably see a very like Flash Gordon-y 1970s. If you're familiar with like the old science fiction pulps like John Carter and whatnot, you would probably see that kind of style of aesthetic to the game, which would be interesting. It's not something we really see anymore. The last time we saw it was probably the reboot, the 1980s reboot of Flash Gordon with the awesome Queen soundtrack. So,
yeah.
Anything else?
No.
You guys want to bring up before I wrap us up?
I will bring up for all you fellow Alien fans out there that Delaila has some words about aliens.
Man. Don't put her on the spot like this. Come on.
All right,
I mean, I don't give a fuck. I'll say what I have to say.
Delaila has a very unpopular opinion to share.
I mean, I feel like if you want to get into the Alien series, you really only need to watch the first one. But because the second one, Aliens and Alien, especially Alien 3. Alien 3 is shit trash.
Oh, no, yeah. The rest of the entire series is shit trash.
Alien 2 is only good up until the end.
I like Prometheus.
Prometheus?
Anything done by Ridley Scott is good. And so that's Prometheus, Alien Covenant, and Alien.
But you're really gonna talk shit on Aliens like this?
Aliens was shit until the very end.
Hard disagree.
Mark, all right. So leaving aside, that's a hot take, and you're allowed to your hot take.
That is liquid hot, molten hot.
Yeah, that's a hot take. But Mark, I will say with Prometheus, I was so excited for that movie. I think my expectations maybe were set a little too high. But I do agree that there's some really cool ideas in the movie. and some really cool scenes. And
what's really funny is when I saw Prometheus, I knew nothing about the Alien franchise at the time. I saw I saw Prometheus in theaters in 2012
so
when
did
it
I,
came
yeah.
out, but I knew nothing about Alien, and I don't even think I knew that it was part of the franchise.
Really?
I think I just went and saw Prometheus and just like took it as it was. I had no idea that it had any sort of part of this franchise. And then like a couple years later, I watched Alien and got more into it and realized like, oh, that's what Prometheus was. Okay.
Yeah, because Prometheus gets very like philosophical.
Yes.
I mean, I feel like all the
Theological.
tones.
It's about religion and
I mean,
shit.
the
yeah.
name of the
Yeah.
movie is Prometheus.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Right.
But anyway,
Very on the nose.
but
Totally.
anyway, yeah, that hot take of Aliens being a bad movie, just like, god damn.
It's too dude bro, man. Maybe if I was like 17, I would have.
Yeah, actually,
I think I did watch it when I was younger, and I forgot about it. It wasn't until I saw that brolic ass Spanish chick that I was like, "Oh, I did see this movie."
Yeah.
You'll probably also just remember a lot of those faces, like not Bill Pullman, Bill Paxton, was also in like Terminator and shit. And
You're thinking
the guy who
I think you're thinking of Michael Bain.
no, they're both in Terminator.
Oh, are they?
Yeah, Bill Paxton plays like the first guy the Terminator kills when he comes in.
Oh, okay.
One of those punks that has like the spiky hair.
Okay.
But yes, Michael Bain also plays fucking Kyle Reese. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
But this whole franchise like goes down a rabbit hole. Like I've been reading like theories and like scripts that were like thrown out in the trash, and it's all very interesting. And I kind of wish that they would create movies based on the scripts that were trashed. And I'm really into the lore, and I feel like I feel like sorry, I lost my thought. I'm so sorry. I had it in my head for like 2 seconds, and then it just went somewhere. I feel like these movies will bring you down a rabbit hole, so you really only need to watch the first one. And I love how the first one had the horror suspense aesthetic, and this game captures that very well.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like the other tones of the other movies were not good, except Prometheus and Alien Covenant.
I see. I think that one of the reasons the second one I like just as much, if not maybe a tiny bit more, was because of how they took a lot of the expectations from the first one and flipped them on their head with the change in tone and genre.
Yeah.
And it's also it's James Cameron.
Yeah.
James Cameron has some awesome hits. He has a lot of stinkers, but same with Ridley Scott.
And I will add, like, saying like Ridley Scott has a very distinct style,
Yeah.
and that shines through in the first movie and later in Prometheus and Covenant.
Yeah, he does.
Yeah.
But bringing it back to video games.
Yeah, I wanna give the final question. We gotta wrap
This
up.
is a good segue.
Yeah. Okay, final question. It's been 6 years. It's actually almost exactly 6 years. We're recording this on October 1st. The game came out October 7th, 2014. Almost exactly 6 years since this game came out. Do we think we'll ever see a sequel to it? Like an official sequel?
No.
I don't think so.
No?
Yeah.
So
They would have done it. They would have done it by now. I feel like they actually might not even have the rights anymore, because when you make deals like that, usually they only last for a few years.
Well, I don't know, 'cause Sega made or published Blackout not like only 2 years ago, I think.
Oh, I thought that was like immediately after or something.
No, I think that was only I think that was only 2 years ago, and then we also had Colonial Marines in 2012. That was before Alien Isolation, obviously, but like I think they've also made an arcade game or two using the license.
Okay.
So I guess what it boils
because
down to,
a lot of times these companies just make the games because they want to hold on to the license. It's the same in movies. A lot of times they'll make a shitty movie and they know it's shitty just because they want to keep the license.
Well, what it also boils down to is, yeah, it's been a while since Sega has done something with the license, and we also had the deal of, what was it, 2 years ago at this point, 3 years ago at this point, where Disney bought 20th Century Fox.
Yeah.
Disney now owns the Alien franchise.
Yes.
So
they'll probably vault and
yeah,
that's another conversation. Like,
what is now the status of this deal with Sega? Does it still exist? Is it still in any standing? And
right.
even if Sega doesn't have it anymore, like, they could still easily give it to another publisher or publish it themselves, give it to another developer. Maybe the question is not do we see a sequel to this game happening, but do we see closure? Funny, coming full circle, do we see closure coming to Amanda Ripley's story?
I would love a canon version of closure for her.
Yeah.
Not what we have, which is a comic book and a mobile game.
Yeah.
See, here's my problem is, like, as much as I do like the game, and, you know, no need to reiterate everything we already talked about. If we were going to get canon Amanda Ripley stuff, I would almost prefer it to be a movie.
Okay.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind that.
And when you ask, do I want a sequel to this game? I almost don't, because I don't want it to fall into the same trappings that, you know, we criticized this game for, which was, you know, taking a lot from the movies. That it's a nostalgia's a double-edged sword. Like,
yeah.
There's the feeling of repetitiveness, and while you're at the same time loving how much you feel like you're in that world that you love so much. I don't know if, unless they were to completely change what kind of game it is, like the sequel Aliens did to the original movie.
Yeah.
Unless they were to actually come out with a good version of Colonial Marines, I don't know, like, what they would do for a sequel that would be really different at all, even, like, going as far as, like, the aesthetics.
And then, yeah, what would her motivation be? Because, like, Ellen Ripley's motivation to, like, go back into space was her trauma. Like, would Amanda just have the same exact trauma? Or
yeah, I mean, I guess the point would be to, like, get rescued, and then what would be her end goal? I guess maybe to stop Weyland-Yutani from continuing this endeavor. And, like, we know how that ends, obviously.
Right.
They still exist, and they still try to get it. But I feel like there could be an interesting story to be told with her going forward. But with everything else,
it's not in the nature of these movies. What makes them great is that they're just blue collar people struggling against these foes that they'll never be able to kill. Like, whether it's the alien or whether it's fucking corporations that always survive and carry on one way or another. It's really just stories about these blue collar engineers and flight officers just fucking surviving. Mm-hmm. And that's what I think makes these characters so relatable to a lot of people in such a crazy sci-fi setting. So honestly, I don't think you really need the sequel, just because you don't necessarily even need to continue the story. She got her closure. That's what she was looking for.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
true. What if she becomes an alien queen? Like,
well, the future of Amanda Ripley is seemingly indefinitely ambiguous. But what's not indefinitely ambiguous are our Twitter handles. You can
wow.
Wait.
What?
He has to give a Kwasnicki score.
Oh, yeah, you're right. Oh, damn it. You fucked up my segue. Okay, yeah. Another segment we do on every episode now is the Kwasnicki rating.
We've always done it. It's awesome.
Yeah. That's what I'm saying.
This is only my score. I speak only for myself. It's not the official score of the show, but I give this Alien Isolation 7 Jonesies out of 10.
7 Jonesies. Okay.
Jonesy.
All right. With that being said, Delaila, what are you up to? You got anything to plug?
I did a full playthrough of this on my YouTube channel, which is why it took me so long to beat it, guys. Sorry.
It's okay.
I was also playing Among Us. I do
boy.
You gotta
every
jump. You gotta get on that Among Us train, man.
yeah.
Everybody's playing it. I still haven't played it.
I only like it because it reminds me of a game I used to play around a campfire called Mafia. But
yeah.
Yeah, I did a full playthrough there on my YouTube channel, and every Halloween I do a Halloween series where I only play horror games once a week called Kitties of the
Same.
Corn. And I actually brought Alien Isolation into that series, and it was like it made its debut on YouTube, but that was typically on like Twitch and wherever, because I stream everywhere now, Twitch, Facebook, and YouTube, which I might stop eventually. But anyway, so like you could join me Sundays at 9:30 to do my next horror game, which will probably be Amnesia or maybe the game we're gonna play next, which you'll see.
Yeah. Jason, you got anything to plug? You
No.
doing anything? No, you're not interesting. I guess the one
I
thing
don't do shit.
the one thing I guess I'll plug. I also every October I make a list ahead of time of horror games I want to get through, and I try to plow through as many as I possibly can. This year I'm actually making it a little more public. I posted my list to my Twitter at Nibelheimian. And as I complete games, I will be just sharing like a tweet's worth of thoughts on it, maybe some screenshots if I have them on hand. Some of the
Cool.
games that I'm going to play are I have a couple PS2 games on there, a couple PS1 games on there, a 3DS game on there, so I'm not really going to be posting screenshots for those, but like yeah, I'm giving my thoughts as I go.
Cool.
I just posted up today the list and some my thoughts on this game, as well as mentioning that we're doing an episode for it.
Nice.
So, if you want to check that out, go follow me on Twitter at Nibelheimian. You can follow Delaila on Twitter at Assassina_san. You can follow Jason on Twitter at SolidQuaz, but don't follow him. He's got nothing of value to share.
I literally don't share anything, so don't even.
If you like the show, if you enjoyed listening to this to this episode, to this podcast, please consider if you watched it on YouTube, please consider liking the episode, subscribing to the channel, sharing the episode, share it with your friends, your family, your kids, your dog, whoever you want, whoever you think would be interested. Somebody that's like, oh, you played this game, maybe you'd like this. Then please send it along. We want to grow. We want to spread.
Or even someone into the Alien series that doesn't like video games.
That's true.
Because we talked about the movies a hell of a lot on this.
Yeah, we sure did. If you're listening on Apple Podcasts, please consider rating and reviewing. We've gotten a few people doing that, and I'm really,
thank you.
And
really
leave
proud
comments
of
wherever
you.
you are. If comments are available, we love feedback and we love talking with our audience.
Yeah, leave a comment on the YouTube episode if you like the show on Apple Podcasts. Please, I'm so happy. Some of you have been leaving really positive words, and it fills my heart with so much love.
Same.
Mark's about to cry. I can see it.
So keep doing that. No, seriously. Thank you so much to anyone that's done that. And please, if you haven't done that, please consider it. 5 stars preferred, obviously. But like any feedback you can give, positive, negative, constructive, what have you, just like provide it. We want to be better. We want to be something that you enjoy. So keep it coming.
Yeah.
Jason.
Yeah.
Horror month is not over. It's only the beginning of October.
Yeah. Guess what?
So what
folks?
are we bringing?
October is double stuffed.
Like my favorite Oreos. This actually aren't my favorite Oreos.
It's like my favorite. No, Reese's piece. The double stuffed Reese's, man.
Oh.
Extra thick.
Yo, that's some good shit. I love me some peanut butter. But what are we playing next?
So we got another game, and it is Resident Evil 7.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're gonna
Actually, I don't think he says 7 in the title of the game. I don't remember.
They stopped doing that eventually. Like I don't know if they ever actually said the number. I feel like Resident Evil 4, he said the number.
Yeah, in Resident Evil, I know for a fact in Resident Evil 4 he says the number in one of the versions.
Yeah, but yeah,
I have like 7 versions of that game.
I don't even think you get the Resident Evil in 7. I think it's the menu is just like that tape recorder thing. But anyway, yeah, we're playing Resident Evil 7 Biohazard. It's currently available on Game Pass. It actually just came on Game Pass, so if you're a Game Pass subscriber, easy way for you to play it there.
What are you buying?
I'll also add that we'll probably also talk about some, not all, but some of the DLC. I know the free one, Not a Hero, is actually adds to the story post game a little bit. There's 2 other DLCs that are kind of important to the story, but those ones actually cost money. So if you can't get around to those, or you don't want to play them, like I can understand that. We'll talk to them a little bit, but like definitely play Not a Hero, the free one, because that kind of gives a little more context behind a big thing that we're gonna have to talk about with that game. So yeah, I hope you join us at the end of the month / beginning of November, whenever I can get that episode up. And we'll see you next time. Thanks for listening.
Bye.
Bye-bye.